I wanted to make a video about something, anything. I wanted to make a video about something or anything or blah blah blah. I mean, there's so much to talk about. It's just that sometimes I find that finding the words are very difficult because, in a lot of ways, for me especially kind of trying to take in all this new stuff that even contradicts what I want to say. It's a little bit overwhelming. It's a little bit you're not sure what you're saying is correct. I mean, and then some other worldview comes into play, and some other opinion comes into play, and then you don't, it's like listening to this barrage of differing thoughts and ideas. It's on some level, maybe people who use Twitter know this more than I do, but on some level it's psychotic. It's like it's disjointed. It's cognitive. It's like a real time cognitive dissonance. It's not even like Ulysses, right? Like it's not even like like a free flow of thought. What was it? Anyway, whatever. I mean, so with all this information coming at you all the time, like you there's opinions that kind of get you, and then you realize that maybe there's some sense to it, but it's still an assault on what you've traditionally been thinking and for the most of your life, or whatever. And the whole gay thing plays into it a lot because I think there's you're so accustomed to, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you're so accustomed to the gay rights thing, right? Like all these countries legalizing same-sex unions or gay marriage or all this research that goes into what causes gay stuff to happen, blah blah blah. The language around it is just so overwhelming at times because they different people have different approaches to it. That some people talk about it on the genetic level, some people talk about it on a social level, some people talk about it from a legal level, others talk about it from a human rights level. I mean, so the language is just really difficult to integrate sometimes because they're coming at you from different disciplines, and it's kind of left up to you. Something's kind of spike in your head, and you're kind of like, I can't say that doesn't make sense, but it definitely doesn't play into my worldview. So yeah, you end up with these weird things. But I saw this article in, I think it was the Toronto Star the other day, about myth. So there's lots of myths in the world, and I don't know how this one reader that wrote in basically categorized myth in terms of religious people that take offense to using the word myth. Myths are myths. I don't see it as derogatory in the sense that he's talking about myths being stories that people have passed down through oral tradition, blah blah blah. Like, I mean, it seems that a myth is a myth. Like, I mean, it's not something really derogatory, but he kind of uses this umbrella term of myth seen as a positive thing through religious history and religious knowledge, and even sort of, he kind of alluded to taking in contemporary myth that is basically literature or stories and fiction and things like that. But I mean, going back to the whole religious myth thing, I think what he missed is basically that religions play off of each other's myths in a very negative way. Different religions call each other false. Like, I mean, religions are exclusive. They're mutually exclusive. Most, if not all of them. I think the fact that you even have to choose one religion already tells you that you have some sort of offending stance to other religions. Like if you look at their holy books, I mean, we don't have to play this out in figurative terms. I mean, just look at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Just look at especially when it comes to Jerusalem. Just look at Hindus versus Muslims in places like India. Look at Buddhists versus Muslims in places like Burma, or am I saying that right? Am I saying Burma? No, is it Burma? Myanmar, just to be safe. And look at Coptic Christians in Egypt. But yeah, there is no lovely, beautiful synchronicity between or among different religions. They all are in the truest sense, mutually exclusive. Even when you see cooperation between different, maybe, how would you say, interests or secular interests that kind of find common ground with people of different faiths, the faith itself actually, those faiths actually disagree with each other through their holy text. And don't tell me blah blah blah, religion is religion and all religions are correct, blah 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 blah. Because if you look at their holy text, which is the basis for the religions, they are mutually exclusive, and you're talking about holy texts that basically espouse the religion. You can't have religions that don't have holy texts. Like, I mean, what would that be saying, right? Like, I mean, that would be such an affront to logic and reason, even to the level. It's even an affront to non-reason and illogical belief. Like, I mean, it's just a flat out atrocity when it comes to thinking things through. Like, I mean, anyway. I mean, there are the Abrahamic religions, and I think that's what I go after mostly on Spiralvent. But the Abrahamic religions aren't based on a common thread. Like, the commonality comes from borrowing from each other. But I mean, they are all basically saying that each one is right, and they have real world conflicts to prove it, right? Like, they do have real world conflicts to prove that they're all trying to dismiss each other. So myth, I don't know. Somehow I feel it's less of an offense to call Greek religion myth as opposed to calling the Abrahamic religions myth. Like, I think there's an easier blow when it comes to calling Greek mythology as opposed to calling Christianity or maybe even Hinduism or Christianity or Judaism. They're all myths, and they're all myths. I don't know why the reader that wrote into the Toronto Star talks about being offended by using the word myth. Like, I mean, I'm not very sure. It's kind of news to me, but that's basically what I wanted to say. I mean, he's forgetting that even Christianity, when they ran up against the indigenous population of Canada. I mean, the indigenous population they had. I mean, this is historical. So I mean, maybe he has a contemporary understanding of myth or whatever. But even when they ran up against the indigenous peoples of North America, they called those things myths, and they tried to convert people to Christianity. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, I don't see where the myth, the offense from calling religious stories myth comes from. But he did, to be fair, he did say that myth kind of exists across the board. But I mean, I think there's a differentiation between religious myth and, works of fiction. I mean, if you don't know the difference, then I ain't talking to you. And I'm like, stop watching my video right now. Anyway, but I'm going to end it. I'm going to end it right now because I think I made my point. Bye.